welcome back to the channel. Today I got a bunch of parts that showed up, so I'm gonna unbox them all and see what we got and then try to get some work done on the car. I've got lots of engine parts came in, pistons, rods should all be here, a new clutch from American Powertrain, and a few other odds and ends that I need to get some work done in the engine bay. So I'll get set up and start opening these up. Okay, got everything unboxed. So the first thing is a clutch. This is a new product from American Powertrain. I was talking to their tech line, and he said they developed this summer. I think it came out in the fall, and they actually developed it with McLeod. It seems to be a really good deal. I was looking at the McLeod RXT 1200. But this clutch is the same holding power, and it was about $300 or $400 cheaper, and it comes with a flywheel, so it's actually really good value. It has all the hardware is ARP. It's like an organic twin disc. It's rated to hold 1,100 foot-pounds of torque, so it should be plenty for what I'm doing. Comes with an alignment tool, ARP flywheel bolts, a pilot bearing, and it also comes with the 28 and 50 ounce weights if you're external balancing. Mine's going to be internal balance, so I won't need those. But I'm really excited to try this out. It's supposed to have pretty soft pedal feel for the street and be able to hold a lot of power at the track. ATI balancer, vibrant flange and clamp for the outlet of the compressor on the turbo, some fittings for that I could use on the motor plate, because I think I'm gonna mount the rad in the back of the car with a pump at the back and see how that works. I thought a lot about putting the rad up front, but with the intercooler and the packaging, there just wasn't really room to fit a rad as big as I wanted to, so that's why I figured I'll try one in the back. I've seen lots of guys on these drag and drives have pretty good success with it, so I'll figure I'd give it a try. Main and rod bearings. I also got this is just from Summit. You can get these from a bunch of different manufacturers. This is just basically a tube and a bracket for an engine travel limiter, because with the motor plates, it has really good strength twisting this way and side to side, but it doesn't have as much control front to back. So I can bolt this plate onto the stock motor mount and use this tube and rod ends and weld it all together and give the engine just some more support other than just the motor plates. A couple things from Rosso, oil filter adapter so I can remote mount the filter, a filler neck with AN already welded onto it for the intake manifold, connecting rods are from Eagle. You can see the part number, they're 6200 long, 4340. They look really good. Actually, the quality and the finish on them, they're not very expensive for what they are. I think Eagle rates them at 1500 horsepower. So those should work out good. And then for pistons, I went with DSS. They were really good to deal with. These pistons weren't in stock when I ordered them, and I think they only took them maybe a week and a half. Not even, actually. I think they were shipped in a week and a half. So they probably only took them 1 week to get these made. They are like a off-the-shelf kind of piston. 125 bore, because it is aftermarket block. 4-inch stroke. Negative 31 cc in the chamber. So with the heads I have, it should be about 9.5 to 1 on the compression. These are their they're called, I think, the F2 forgings. They have 3 different levels of forgings, basically the F1, 2, and 3. Yeah, they're really nice too. DSS kind of does this X groove in the skirt. Who knows if it actually works or not. I'm sure there's some science behind it. But I got those. So it also came with their rings. Yeah, I'm just waiting for a crankshaft, and then I'll probably be taking all this stuff to the machine shop and start getting that going, so I have it back in time to put it together before Miles of Mayhem. If you've seen the last video, I had a little bit of a clearance issue on this driver's side pipe for the turbo kit, where it was just barely getting into the tubular mount here off the front end. So I'm just going to put a little bit of heat again to this area and use a socket and just give it a couple taps to put a tiny little bend in it, and that should be enough to get it to clear that bar. Okay, hot side is back on. It is a little hard to see on camera, but there is a gap now, probably 25 or 30 thousandths. It's enough that it won't touch, and it should have a little bit of room to move. I haven't really been filming much of working on the exhaust. I've just been cutting and test fitting and trying out a few different ideas of where I was gonna route the exhaust. Originally I was gonna go over top of the tire and out down here. I figured the longer bit of exhaust would make it a little quieter, since this is going to be street driven, hopefully quite a bit. But 4-inch stainless is really expensive, and it just wasn't worth the time, I don't think, to do that. So I ended up just cutting a hole in the fender, the 4-inch hole saw, and then just cleaned it up with the Dremel. And what I ended up doing is, off the back of the turbo, I got a bunch of these 15-degree pie cuts from Performance World, and they create a lot tighter radius than the mandrel bent 90 that Performance World always does. And it's just going to be super short and come out the fender. I'll tack this in place quick and then show you what it looks like and see if I'm happy with it before I weld it all together. Okay, I got it tacked in place. Like I said, it just comes right out the fender there. I'll probably trim this down, you know, so it's not such an eyesore. And Motion Raceworks makes a really nice low profile trim ring I will probably put on there too to clean it up a bit. But so I got 5 of those 15-degree pie cuts. This flange is also from Performance World. It just reduces it down to a 4-inch outlet, and yeah, there's still lots of room to get a O2 sensor in there. And then I'm just waiting. The wastegates, I don't want to cut any more holes in the fender, so I think I'm just gonna Y the 2 wastegate pipes together and put a V-band somewhere right in the exhaust there, and run both of the wastegates into the 4-inch pipe, and then there's only one pipe hanging out the fender, and it should look a lot cleaner. So I'll probably get this all taped up and ready to weld. The exhaust is all welded up now and bolted back on. Like I said before, I'll probably cut a little bit off this so it doesn't stick out so far. I'm going to work on the wastegate exhaust now. I was thinking of doing it a couple different ways, either just venting the wastegates to atmosphere, but I've kind of decided I just want it to look really nice and clean and tidy. So I just picked up another little UJ bend from Performance World and 1 3/4 V band, and I'm going to merge it into the pipe kind of right on the elbow, and then I'll wire the two wastegates together into that, and then all the exhaust will just go out the fender. I think it'll look a lot cleaner and should work perfectly fine. So I'll start cutting and welding, and I'll update once I kind of have an idea of where it's all gonna go. Okay, I've been working on the wastegate exhaust pretty well all day now, and I've kind of changed courses on what I had planned previously for a couple reasons. So as I mentioned before, I was gonna merge both of the wastegates back into the exhaust pipe, mainly just for looks and to keep the whole setup cleaner, because I didn't want to cut another hole in the fender for another pipe to come out of there. There really is no benefit on this setup to merging the wastegates back into the exhaust. The only time merging the wastegates back into the exhaust would make sense is if it was a full exhaust, like primarily street driven car. You would probably merge it back in the exhaust, because when the wastegates open, it gets really loud. But seeming as the exhaust is already so short, that's not an issue. But the main reason I decided to change was because I'm going to need to put an oxygen sensor in the exhaust for the EFI. And I talked to a couple of people, and just thinking about how it was going to end up, the wastegate exhaust would only be about 2 or 3 inches in front of the sensor, and my worry is once the wastegates open, that extra exhaust would create some turbulence potentially inside this exhaust pipe and would throw off the oxygen sensor reading, and that would be no good. So I'm going to vent it just to atmosphere, and so I came up with this instead. So I've been working and building these couple pieces. So these will just fit on the V-bands here like that, and then this other bend I still need to trim this back, and then this will go on here, and it'll vent all the exhaust just right onto the ground. It's not necessary to do all of this, but I could just spin these wastegates 180 degrees and just let them dump right to the ground, but I wanted something that would look a little nicer. And yeah, this is where I've ended up. So I'll finish getting these welded together and then show you what it all looks like when it's done. Alright, here is the finished product. Again, this is totally unnecessary. I just wanted to do something a little different than dumping them right to the pointing at the ground. So that's pretty well the whole hot side finish now. In the next video, I'm probably going to start working on the cold side and get the intake all on and the intercooler back in and start working on the plumbing for that. So thanks for watching.